Welcome to the Success Pick and Mix podcast. I'm your host, Nicky Raby, a professional pick and mixer. I'm a personal brand coach, a speaker, an actor, a creator, and a podcaster. I'm on a mission to help you find and create your version of success. Your pick and mix of life and business on your terms. A blend that complements your personality, your goals, and your circumstances. Since 2018, I've been sharing interviews and mini episodes to help you unlock your next step, to make it real and make it happen. Round here, we dream big. We go for the ideal version. We talk about money and make moves our future selves would be proud of. This podcast is free and available for you whenever you need it. So do rate, review, and subscribe for new episodes. If you want to go deeper with my support, check out my freebies house and unlock the rooms you choose. nickyraby.com/freebies house. I also have workshops, programs, and one-on-one bespoke offerings. For prices and availability, go to nickyraby.com. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me and my guests. Now, on to today's episode. In today's episode, I am speaking to Emily Williams, who is a success coach, the CEO of I Heart My Life, an author, a speaker, a podcast host, and according to her clients, the fairy godmother of making your dreams come true. Today's episode is all about your next chapter, building the dream, opening up the next part of the vision. I know how easy it can be to be in life. You know, the day-to-day, the making the breakfast, the picking the kids up from school, the cleaning the floors, the working out the life admin, the doing the wash, all of the things. And yes, they are beautiful moments too. But I want to talk about the big juicy stuff as well. The things that make your heart sing, the things that perhaps you've put on a vision board or a bucket list, and you hope that someday you will have or do and have all of those things when you have enough time, money, energy, resources, skills, etc. Today is the day that we bring that vision closer. You're going to hear loads and loads of tangible tips in this of ways that you can unlock that next chapter. And that's what I'm all about. I'm about that momentum and creating it with ease and flow and enjoyment and not assuming that those things are so far away because they are probably closer than you think. It's a great one. Grab a piece of paper and a pen. Let's get into the episode. As always, rate, review, subscribe. Come and chat to us. I'll add all the details in the show notes. Sending you lots of love and enjoy. Hi, Emily. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you. So I have watched and learned so much from your work over the years, but if people don't know you, could you share a little bit about where you're up to now? Because I know that you've had a shift, you've had a transition, and it feels like it's a really great time to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I started my company in 2014 and it's called I Heart My Life. And initially it was meant to be more of a life coaching company for women who wanted to learn how to love themselves and their lives. But it ultimately morphed into working more with entrepreneurs, which has been amazing. But I actually realized that I Heart My Life is meant to be something different. And so in early 2020, I started to pivot kind of back to the roots of what it was always meant to be and where I really want to take the company going forward. So although I've had a ton of success working with coaches and service-based entrepreneurs, and I love working with ambitious women, for us, it's really about holistic success. So not just looking at marketing, business strategy, all the things, but really looking at spirituality, relationships, mindset, like what are the key components that help you create a life better than your dreams. Mm-hmm. And we have a big focus on community. We're launching a new membership. I have the I Heart My Life show where I bring on incredible guests, mentors, and teachers to support all of our students and community and creating that dream life.
I love it. I've learned so much from you because your work to me speaks to me in a way that the vision and the possibility that you share
it goes broad and it goes wide, and it goes it feels like the brightness turns all the way up. And that's really inspiring for me in this time, because I feel that life certainly can become a series of boxes that you should or could tick. And we're looking ultimately for that huge fulfillment and that deep and broad fulfillment. And so I guess, how have you navigated that from yourself, from moving, I'm sure, from the pressure of ticking boxes, doing the right thing, following the path, to rewriting your own rules and boxes and following those?
Yeah, I mean, I could give you a different answer for basically every single chapter of my life, but what it really boils down to is following my heart and following those like internal nudges. And, you know, really when I saw the first confirmation of this back in 2008, when I was about to go to grad school, and I was literally driving there and had this feeling in the pit of my stomach that it was not the right decision for me. And so I turned the car around and went back to Ohio. And although I entered into a major quarter life crisis, there was a sense of relief for me, because I just had this internal knowing that it wasn't the right decision. And, you know, there's so much more to the story than that. I ended up moving to London and started my business a few years later. But I really think it boils down to just tuning in to that intuition and what you're being called to do, because the heart doesn't lie. And the truth is, it's probably going to sound really crazy. It's probably going to feel foreign. People probably won't understand what you're being guided to do. And that's really how you know it's your truth. Anyone can intellectually, you know, think about their life and take things step by step in the way they were taught to do. It takes a strong person and someone who's really tuned in to do things differently.
And how have you found that bravery and that trust within yourself? Has it been something that's built over time? Has it been a sense that the evidence has been, oh gosh, you can tell I've been watching that Johnny Depp trial, oh my goodness, that sense of you've almost seen enough evidence now that you know that your system works? I know myself, when I know when I'm on, and I know when I'm off, way off. I know when I listened or when I'm going, I took the wrong turn there. How has that process been for you? Because I know some people will say, this is what my heart's saying, but yet the other voice is perhaps louder, more judgmental, all of the things.
Yeah. So, you know, the way you said that was perfect, because there is an element of evidence. So I really believe that success leaves clues. And so the first, you know, big sort of turning point for me was not going to grad school. And I started to feel that relief. And I think emotion is very telling, relief in particular. I think it's a very underestimated and underutilized emotion. And so I started to just pay attention to the moments where I followed my heart, and I saw what happened and how I felt and how things started to fall into place. And was this immediate? No, but I'm not somebody who can not follow my heart, because it'll lead to like anxiety. I'll feel out of alignment. Things will be much harder. So I started to just pay attention to the moments when I was following my instincts and what happened. And I think you can practice this with really simple things. Maybe, you know, you're being asked to do something. Maybe it's speak at an event, or something even smaller where a friend has asked you to go to a party, and internally you're like, you know what, this is a no for me. And sometimes we feel pressure to say yes, but what about for this time you actually say no? And I've had that happen so many times as an introvert. And I'm like, why do I want to say no to this? And sometimes it's literally just because I want to rest. Sometimes it's because actually another invite happens, and if I had chosen to say yes to that first thing, then I would have been unavailable. So it's really interesting when you start to play with this, and then you ultimately start to develop more trust in your instincts, and you can say yes or no to those bigger things, even if they feel scary.
Yes. And maybe it's turning 40, but I've almost lost that ability to, it has been a work in progress, to sort of people please to the point of that discomfort. I feel it in my body sometimes when I'm at a drinks thing or a party, or, I mean, I'm talking like I'm a socialite, I'm really not, but that sense of, or sometimes it's just bad gossip, you know, a group of mums saying, and I have that thing of like, I have to go. Right, I need to walk, I need to get in the taxi, like I am done. And that's been really interesting, paying attention to that, because again, that voice, and not to bring my mum into it too much, but my mum is such that kind of kind-hearted, like we're going on a hen do this weekend, and my mum, she's there in the WhatsApp group, she's like, it sounds amazing, I'm there, I'm doing all of the things. But to watch her develop that intuition in her 60s is a really lovely thing as well. And seeing that between a mother and daughter of what you're teaching each other, and in turn I want to teach my daughter the same thing, and she will, I'm sure, teach me many lessons too. How do you work with fear or self-doubt, or that sense of, oh, I said yes, but now everything is just catching up a little bit, and I'm going to have to ground myself in this moment to follow that true desire, because you know that that's what you're meant for, but also not be like, oh, I'm not scared at all. Be intuitive with how you're feeling.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that's really sweet and amazing about your mom, because there's definitely, generational programming where women of that sort of age weren't necessarily taught this stuff. So it's really amazing to watch that. And I've seen that with my own in-laws and my family. So thank you for sharing that. So for me, in terms of fear, I think the thing that comes up as you're asking the question is just, fear is never going to go away. And so it's not about eradicating that. It's just about being able to pay attention, but not give it tons of energy, so to speak. So it's like, you're a mom, I'm not a mom yet, but what I understand is that when kids are acting up, like they're looking for some level of attention, and it's not about completely ignoring them, but you don't need to give in to every single thing that they're craving or asking for, or, when they're throwing a tantrum, you don't need to like kind of stoop to that level. It's nice to be understanding and to show that you are acknowledging that they're experiencing that emotion. And so that's really what I do with my fear. And sometimes for me, I suffer from anxiety, and I have over the past. And so for me, even just like talking to my anxiety and being like, what is this? Like, you don't need to be here right now. We're on a trip. We don't, there's nothing to be scared of, like, but just being kind of more soothing, but not give it tons of energy. And so I've learned to just like acknowledge that fear and understand that if it's there, then maybe I'm doing something big, or maybe this is a new challenge, or great, like this is an indication that there's something for me to work through or work on or learn from. And I think our emotions in general are such a good indication of some of our growth edges and where we need to tune into next.
Gosh, you've just given me such a breakthrough in terms of when I speak with my children, and as you say, if they're acting up, which of course they rarely do, because no, but if that moment of like, I need it, I want it, or if I observe other children, when they're tugging on it on a sleeve or something like that, one of the things that I have is a boundary about saying what you need. I'm always saying, like, what is it that you need? How can I help you? Can you show me? So to try and articulate, and sometimes people just want to roll on the floor and cry, and that's fine as well. But I have a real thing about communication. And also, if I then take that back to fear, I have to, a way that I could use that fear is to put that boundary in place with my fear of saying, and if it is a strong enough fear, I really need you to communicate what this fear is and really show me what the downfalls are, almost like prove it, like bring it to the table. Come on, then let's see you. And then there's something to work with rather than just, I don't know, it looks like it might rain today. Anyway, right, I'll just bob along and do the things that I was doing anyway.
Yeah, that's so beautifully articulated. And I like to describe this as following the fear as well. And it's really funny. We were just on a retreat in Bora Bora with some of our clients. And one of the activities we did was swimming with sharks. And I didn't know that we were going to do this. I specifically told my event planner, like, no sharks. But we pulled up in this boat and there were these little sharks there. And so I was like literally following the fear with my clients on the boat, externally. And I said, what is the fear here? And one of my clients turned to me and she said, death. The fear is death. And we were just laughing.
That's not not on the website.
Right. But so often, when we follow that fear, it's actually not that bad. And obviously sharks aside, but when we're talking about the little examples in our everyday life, if we ask ourselves, what is this actually about? What is coming up for me? What is the fear? And most of the time it's like, I'm not going to be good enough, or someone's not going to like me, or I'm going to be judged, or I'm going to lose something. And it's not actually something that's going to be life altering. And so when you recognize that and you tune into the desire, and you really start to recognize that the desire actually feels expansive and the fear feels restrictive and constricting, then it's so much easier to lean into the desire.
One of my questions I had follows beautifully with that. Why do you think that people wear their stories, or if we go coachy, sort of limiting beliefs, excuses, and I'm not necessarily talking about the deep-centered trauma or anything like that, because I know that's a very sort of a different topic, but almost those sorts of things like, oh, I'm always late, like that's just who I am, or now I'm 40, that's it for me, or just these phrases that people have almost picked up along the way, almost, this is a really horrible analogy, sorry for this, but almost like bits of dandruff that they suddenly like appear on a jacket or something, and it would be so easy to move them away because they're not embedded in, but somehow people wear them, and myself included. I'm not guilty of not doing this, but this sense of, why do people cling on to them instead of perhaps the opposite of going, I wonder what it would be like to let them go, or to do something else, or to choose again?
I think we like people, and including ourselves, in different categories. The mind likes to make sense and know how to just categorize certain people. And I also think sometimes people aren't taught about having a level of awareness, and they aren't taught that there is an opportunity for change. And of course, we know that there are a lot of people who are taught this and aren't willing to change. And so, even a few minutes ago, I caught myself saying, I suffer from anxiety, right? And that doesn't need to be my story. And so if I were being more conscious with my words, I could say, I'm working on transforming my anxiety. I'm working on creating more peace. And so I bring a new sort of categorization to myself and my life. And it just takes practice though, because our mind has been programmed a certain way and we see ourselves in a certain way. And sometimes that's like an excuse to not go to the next level, or to not achieve, or not to do something. I've seen a lot of people use their family background in terms of financials as a reason why they can't be successful. And that's just an easy out. If you really think about it, there are so many people out there who have transformed their lives. They've changed the trajectory for generations to come. And you're telling me that you can't do it just because of your family history? Like, that's total BS. And ultimately, it just comes down to fear. It comes down to using these things as an excuse. But you have to be taught and be aware enough to know when you're doing that, and have the tools to shift it.
Absolutely. And it's a gradual, it's almost like when you go to yoga, that sometimes you've just got to adjust the pose to make it work for you. That's like, I remember a yoga teacher saying, just bend your front knee. I was like, oh, that feels better. And she's like, it will feel better. Just bend it and work with it and breathe and go into what you need in this position. And sometimes it's just allowing ourselves to be in that stickiness to be able to relieve it. Over the last, since 2014, how has becoming a person with a big dream of, I want to do this, there's something, even those very, it's bizarre sort of even going back to those early stages, but like, I think there's something in this. I want to talk about life and people creating great ones, to being a fully fledged, like, big company CEO owner. What's that journey been like for you, and what have been the biggest surprises perhaps?
Yeah, goodness, great question. So it definitely has not been a straight path. That's for
No,
sure.
what? Oh God. When people say, I just woke up like this, did you? Did you
Right.
really?
Yeah. And I think, so I'll start with the surprise first, because that will help me articulate the rest of your question. So I didn't realize the amount of personal development work that would be required to create success. And it goes back to what we were just talking about around the programming of our mind and what we were taught by family, by society, just through osmosis growing up. And so, I've been invited to work with top mentors, and I don't mean an invitation from them, but like life has invited me to rise to the next level through personal development work with top mentors, therapists, coaches, nutritionists, all the people, to be able to become the next level version of myself. And I do think that that's one of the things that is really scary to people when they think about who they need to become and what's going to be required of them in order to achieve their goals. And that's definitely one of the things that, that holds people back. And so I've been willing to be vulnerable every stage of the game. I've been willing to fail. I've been willing to look at myself and have that perspective and be like, okay, so what is holding me back right now? And how can I transform that? How can I be better? And that's really been one of the consistent things over this journey that has enabled me to continually go to the next level and to not be scared of putting myself out there in a bigger way, not be scared to hire a team and learn about how to do all of that, not be scared to like become the CEO and shift into a next level role. And I really think that's one of the secrets is like working on yourself.
Absolutely. How have you found that balance between all of the buzzwords that perhaps we hear about entrepreneurship of freedom and space and expansion and travel and luxury and all of these things, with that sense of we still have targets that we want to meet, we have a vision for the company, we have stuff that needs to happen every single day. So to find that balance between you having that wiggle room, that flexibility, that expansion to be able to live a great life, but also keep the cogs turning and doing what you want to do with your company.
I think freedom is very subjective. And so whenever I work with anyone, I want to get a clear definition of what their goals actually are. And I like to use the word desires because I'm very heart-centered. And so for me, I was very clear that luxury and making a lot of money and impacting a lot of people, like those were true desires. Owning a home, being able to travel first class. Now, it might look different for other people. I have colleagues who their definition of freedom was a ton of profitability in their company and as much time as possible with their kids. Like that was it. It was very simple. And obviously that's not simple on paper, but just, when they verbalize it. And so I think you have to get clear about what it is for you. And so I know for me that part of my mission is just to impact as many people as possible. I would go as far as to say billions of women. And so it's not going to be the same path as somebody else who say, their big goal is a 6 or multiple 6-figure business, right? And so I had to get really clear, and I still do to this day, around what are my actual goals and what's going to be required of me. So to give you a tangible example, yesterday I had a really spacious morning. I went for a walk. I did some meditation, stretching, reading, all the things. This morning, we had an issue with an email. And so I was on my computer at 7:30 trying to figure it out. And so there was a point where I was resentful of those moments in the business, but I recognize that that's just me using energy in a way that's not going to serve me. And so I understand what chapters I'm in and what's required of me in order to get to the next level. And will it always be this like this? No, like life is always changing. Business is always changing, but I'm accepting of the times where I have to work really hard, and that's just the reality. And then I relish in the moments like, being able to be in Bora Bora for 2 weeks where we got to work with our incredible clients, and then literally, at 4 p.m. go snorkeling and have a beautiful dinner overlooking the water. So it's just being really present. I think that's what it boils down to, present to every moment, and recognize that you can design it however you want. And also being like rooted in reality. And I use that word cautiously because I know that it's not a word I use a lot, but we do need to be real. Like if you want to affect like millions or billions of people, like it's going to take work. And so decide if that's actually what you want, because if not, that's totally okay. You can have success on your terms. Just be conscious and deliberate about what you're creating, and it'll be so much easier.
Amazing. One of mine is, to give a tangible example, is I want to work just in term time and then in the holidays have time off with the children. They don't necessarily always need to be in the same room with me, but have that sense where I'm on holiday as well. So that could be a morning in the garden, or us all going out for the day, or whatever it might be. And this, so my daughter Luna, she will go to school September 2023, and I always sort of knew that random date in my head. And this year I have been, as Marie Forleo would say, starting before I'm ready. But this year is the try-on year of really analyzing, because I'm a complete geek, what do the holidays look like? How far away am I? Or am I doing it? Am I doing it seamlessly and effortlessly and efficiently? Maybe not just yet, but what does this look like this year? So by the time September 23 happens, it's working and it's in the mix. How has that sense of trying on your next level, your next stage, your next desire worked for you?
That's such a great question. And thank you for sharing that example. And the truth is most people don't even allow themselves to go there. They might think, oh, you know what? I have this pie in the sky dream of taking the summers off, or whatever it is. Or, for me, I want to take from Thanksgiving to New Year's off. But they might think, oh, that's not possible. Same thing with travel. A lot of people won't even look at how much it will cost to upgrade the ticket. And so you just being curious and now putting a plan in place is so huge. And so, yeah, that's exactly what I've done all these years, is get really clear on the desire and don't let my mind go. And I don't let my mind go to the place of, oh, that's not possible for me, because that's total BS. Like, what if you desire it? I believe it's dropped in, it's part of your DNA, it's life calling you in a certain direction. And it's our job to entertain that and to explore it and at least see how it would be possible for us to make it happen. And so I do that with everything, even if it's not in my current reality this moment. I know that I can create it and work towards it. And I'm honest with myself about the time frame, like, if you have a goal to have a completely passive business, and yet right now everything you do requires you, okay, well, you're probably not going to snap your fingers and make a change unless you make the conscious decision that, hey, I'm going to make a change to my income level. Maybe it's going to dip for a little bit. It doesn't have to, but be real about what it's going to take for you to go to the next level or to get to a certain goal, and then make some conscious decisions, and just be in reality around the steps that are going to be required of you and the time frame.
Yes. And that sense of, sometimes there's a reason or a season for something. Like if I look at my first quarter of the year, it financially wasn't particularly mind-blowing, like, wow, I'm really doing all of the things that I want to do. But we bought a house. That was one of those things. And that moment of transitioning our family, and it was a really, really long process. And I know you've just moved as well, and that sense of, okay, we're keeping the faith, we're working through it, but we love it, but we're not going to get too attached, and we're going to figure it all out. But that, for me, and again, going back into that voice of you should have done more, you should have done this. And actually I had COVID for about a month, it felt. And I was so working towards all of the logistics of making that move. And I think just remembering those moments sometimes, that your success is very multifaceted in lots of different ways. And if somebody had said 10 years ago, we would move, I wouldn't probably have believed them, because it would be a dream come true. But some part of me obviously kept the faith, had the faith, and bloody went for it.
Yeah, it's so important to zoom out and have a bigger perspective than just a month or a day or a moment. Our life is really made up of a series of big chapters. And so it's just important to have that perspective for sure.
How has your move been? How has that changed the way that you live and work? And how was that process for you?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So we've moved 9 times in 10 years, we figured out. And these were, cross
And you're
country
still
moves.
together, Emily. You bloody
Yeah.
did it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So we moved from the UK to California, then California to
Wow.
Texas last September. And so it's definitely been a journey, and it's really interesting now, to finally own a home, and we were able to build it, and it's beautiful and all the things. But it's so interesting because I feel more freedom now because we feel grounded, which is never something I thought I would say. Yeah, but there is an element of, when you own something and you have that investment and you have some roots, that you do feel more grounded. But for me, that's created more freedom. And so it's been amazing. I do miss elements of California. I miss elements of London. But it's definitely, being in this location in particular, we moved here because of the network, because we have so many friends here, so many colleagues. And so it's really helped me shift out of, complete worker bee into doing things for fun, having more of a social life, building those connections, stretching those networking muscles, even as an introvert. And so it's added like a new element and a new just like chapter of joy to my life.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so thrilled for you, because it takes so many building blocks to get to that point where the contracts are signed, and it's a great moment. I was listening to your podcast about Bora Bora, as you mentioned earlier, and having a retreat out there. And I love what you said about moving people out of their daily routine, their environment. Would you tell us a little bit more about the importance of that, and perhaps how people can, even if they're thinking like, oh, I could never go on a retreat next week, how if they could be in that trying on phase, perhaps?
Yeah. So it comes down to what we were chatting about in terms of possibility. And so for me, one of the biggest, I guess, maybe even easiest ways I found to help transport women into their next level version of themselves, or to help them see what's possible, is to not only get them into a room together, but to get them into like a whole next level environment. And so, we've done that with just day-long events in beautiful 5-star locations. We've done it with these, epic retreats and experiences. And something happens when you physically put yourself in the room. You like step into the next level category or version of yourself. It literally just happens when you arrive. And it's so much more transformational than reading the book or absorbing the online course, because you're there living it, and your mind can't deny the fact that it's possible for you because you are literally in the room. And so I find that so often we keep ourselves kind of contained, and we don't take the action steps that would provide really quick transformation. And so I would just look at, what is calling you at the moment? Is it going to the event, even if it's like an evening networking event like we do, like a mixer, or is it a full-blown retreat, or is it immersive VIP day with somebody, with a coach or something, or even like a plant medicine journey or whatever? Is there something calling you that you can feel internally is going to help you shift? And of course, the fear often comes up, but just ask yourself, like, what are the steps I can take? And it can really just be going to a mixer for an hour. Like, that's not a big thing. No one's going to die. And you can just go and see how it feels, and just start to dip your toe in the water if you're not somebody who likes to go all in. But it's very transformational to get yourself out of your daily routine and what is the norm for you, so you can step into the new normal.
I speak a lot about that in my work when I help people with speaking, in that sense of, as an actor, sometimes people would just want to sit in a circle and read the scripts and just like read it. And I love those directors who'd be like, up you get, come on, let's get it on its feet. Because that, and when you put the script down and maybe you ad lib it and maybe you have a go without the script, that's when you learn where you are or how it feels in your body, and you get closer to the character, or to go back to, you know, you as a business owner, you get closer to what it is because you can really feel it out. You can't, you're not in that sort of static position where you're just like, oh, I'm not quite there yet. You, as you say, you're in the room, you're doing all the things.
Exactly. That's such a great example and metaphor. And yeah, when you're actually at the 5-star location, which is what we do for our retreats, you know, we like to say it's where personal development meets your vision board, because we want you to see that the dream reality can be your reality now. And if you can compress the timeline, you know, for that one experience, think about what you can do with the rest of your goals.
Oh gosh, so good. I would like to ask about money, if that's okay, of how having more money than perhaps you ever dreamed of has changed your life, and what that process has been for you in being able to really do the things that you want to do.
That's such a British way of asking. I'd like to talk about money.
What's it like to be rich? Oh my God, that sounds like such a Daily Mail thing, but I'm trying to ask in a polite way. But yeah, you're so right. I'm so British because you don't, we're so, we can't ask about it. But I want to know.
It. No,
and my audience want to know, because I think people stand behind the 7-figure or the 6-figure or whatever. And I want to know what that means on a day-to-day basis.
You're so sweet. My husband's British, for those of you who don't know, and I'm a British citizen. So I love it. It's just funny to me. So yeah, it's so interesting. I think a lot of people actually have a fear of making more money because they don't know if they'll be able to handle it. They don't know what the repercussions will be, both positive and negative. And so for me, I kind of just went into the whole thing really open. And my first goal was just to hit 6 figures. And I did that relatively quickly and then scaled my business to the $1 million mark in 18 months. And so, but at the same time, I was also spending a lot of money. As I mentioned earlier, I've always invested in coaches and personal development and just all of that, and have spent to date about $600,000 on that sort of work. And so it wasn't like, and then we were, spending money on Facebook ads. And as I've grown the company, I've built the team. And so one of the things that I think I didn't know much about until the last few years is just really looking at profitability and looking at not just the sales that are coming in, but the profits. Like, how much money are you actually keeping? Because when it boils down to it, if people are craving freedom and financial freedom in particular, well, that means you probably want to have some money in the bank and not just be having all these sales coming in with nothing to show for it. And so I think it's great to have goals and milestones that you want to reach, but at the same time, there are other KPIs and benchmarks that may actually be more important to you when you tune into what your desires actually are.
Absolutely. And that sense of really understanding what the payoff is in that way. I did your I Heart Money course maybe 5 years ago, I think, a long time ago. And it was really like the next, it felt like I went to play, when you play in the little playground when you were a child and you'd kind of look at the middle playground or like where the bigger kids were. I felt like it took me to that next layer of really looking at my money, looking at how I grow it, looking at what my relationship was and that sense of all the emotions around that. And one thing that I've learned is to look at the whole picture of the experience and to move away from that, well, this is what the minimum wage is, or this is what somebody might pay per hour, but to look at those benefits, look at those solutions that you're providing. And one thing I've realized is to look at that sense of how small you are in the big picture of things. As in, I did an advert at the end of 2020 and I was bought out for another year for it. And I just got paid again, plus some more. and I didn't do any other work for it. And years ago, if that had happened, I would have felt enormous guilt. I would have felt like I would have had to turn up at the director's house and said, can I just cook you dinner or something, just to say, all of that stuff. And actually, my face is selling somebody else's products. My face is selling a big corporation. I was going to say it's changing people's lives. It's not, but it understanding what that whole network is that it's okay. It's okay to be paid again. It's okay to enjoy the money. It's okay to feed and clothe my children and take them on nice holidays. It's all okay. It's okay to give back. It's okay to donate to the school. There's such a big story.
Oh yeah. And I mean, one of the questions you asked me around the different chapters of building the business and what it's looked like, when I said that personal development has been a bigger part of it than I expected, I also meant the money mindset work because of all the programming that we have growing up and the ways we're taught to view money. And it's not just okay for you to have the means to pay for all those things. You are actually meant to live an abundant life. And this is something that we're not taught. And we're actually taught the opposite, that if we have too much, that means we're taking it from somebody. And so there's all this kind of junk that's blocking us from creating more wealth and being financially free and raising our prices and desiring more. And so it's really important to clear all of that out so you can get to the truth of what it is that you actually want. And then you can work on generating the belief that you can have it and it's possible, and then ultimately putting in place the action steps and getting the support to make it happen.
Yes. So speaking of which, how can people find out more about what you do? You're coming to London in the summer. That's happening, which is great. And where else could people go to get your support or get to know you better?
Thank you for asking. Yes, we are coming to London to host a mixer. And then we will be hosting. Sorry?
It's so kind of you to work with the royal family, to organize the whole.
That's amazing. Yeah, let's manifest that. Yeah, so we'll be coming to London. Then in September, we're going to be hosting another mixer in Los Angeles. We're going to be doing some things in Austin where I live. But ultimately, if you just go to iheartmylife.com, you'll see information about my podcast, the I Heart My Life show. We're also launching a new membership that's going to be available in July. So that's super exciting. So yeah, lots happening over there.
Oh, and I have to say, I've dabbled with lots of coaches and programs and not people, but you know what I mean, over the years. And I just think that you're just the business at what you do. I think you just give so much value and you deliver, and I always learn something from you. So I'm so happy that we got to chat today. Thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, and and helping people to check in with their heart and their desire. It goes a bit quiet sometimes, especially after the last couple of years when perhaps many of us have been in survival mode or having children at home or caring for people, just to come back to that place of what do I really want? What really lights my fire and what am I drawn towards? It's sometimes a difficult headspace to get into. So the fact that you break it down in this way, I know it's going to be so transformational for people.
Oh, thank you. You're so kind. It's been an honor to work with you. And thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you haven't already, feel free to rate, review, and subscribe for all the brand new episodes. If you want to go deeper with my support, check out my freebies house and unlock the rooms you choose. NickyRaby.com/freebies house. I also have workshops, programs, and one-on-one bespoke offerings. For prices, availability, or just to have a chat with me, go to NickyRaby.com. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me and my guests, and I'll see you next time.